Welcome to the Borough of Swissvale regular council meeting for May 3rd, 2023. I would like to call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Let's move to our roll call. Miss Alfonso Wells.
Present.
Mr. Miser.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here.
Mr. Quinn.
Present.
Miss Scales.
Here.
Miss Stribling.
Present.
Mayor Schwartzwelder.
Here.
I likewise am present. Okay, we're going to move to item 3 on the agenda, public comment. Let's start. All right, let's start. So Miss Jacqueline Jai, I don't know if you can hear us. It looks like her audio is not connected yet. Sarah, maybe if you can send her a quick email just to let her know that she needs to connect to audio. And we will go to Miss Mary Miller to give us some SEDCO updates.
Hello, everyone. How are you tonight? I just wanted to give you a real quick update on some of the projects that SEDCO's working on, and you know where we're at with some of these things. But the first question I had is, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows we put up all of the veterans banners on Washington and Noble, and a few months ago I had brought up the idea of getting American flags to also go to line the streets there, since the brackets are already they're already on the poles, the brackets for American flags to hang at an angle. And I'm just wondering if anyone has addressed that or looked at pricing for that, or where we stand with that, because we could always go to any of our state or federal reps and ask them if they could donate flags if the borough doesn't have the funding to do that. So I don't know if Greg had a chance to do that, but if he can let me know, then we can see what we can do on SEDCO's end. The parklet on Church and Braddock, we're still trying to figure out what to do with that. Right now it's kind of a mess, and it's just got signs and litter all over it. And SEDCO was considering commissioning a piece of public art or some kind of a sign commemorating the 125th anniversary. But we kind of need to know if that's in the works, if that's going to be ready on time for that, or if the borough has given any more thoughts to what's going to happen with that parklet. And then if we can find that out, then we can move forward with what, plans that we have to get some signage or a piece of art or something in that space. And I believe that's all of the updates. We're still working on the vacant lot mapping project, but we have nothing to report on that at this time. So that is my report.
Great, thank you so much for that. Mayor Schwartzwelder, I know you had made a comment to me about the path recently. I can't remember if you said it was SEDCO or if it was Rotary that was going to be taking something on with the parklet. Could you just kind of share with the group, whenever we get to your report, a little bit of, again, whatever. I apologize that I can't remember the update. Okay. Mr. Batchy, if there's any news kind of from your side of things from the parklet, if you can just bring that up under your report as well. Is that okay, Mr. Batchy?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Ms. Miller, is there anything else from us that you're looking for at this time?
No, that's just where we're at with those things, because so that SEDCO can, figure out what we need to do, because we're kind of held up until we know what the borough's plans are.
Yeah,
so
I understand. I know that it is our desire to this summer see that parklet completed. So I don't know. I don't have more than that yet, but
it's good.
That's the plan.
We were just kind of, trying to see if we could get it at least usable by the anniversary, so that, we could put up some kind of a sign commemorating that and have kind of a centerpiece. So if we can do that, that would be great.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, you're welcome. All right, Miss Jacqueline Jai, the floor is yours if you want to unmute and share with us your public comment. Miss Jacqueline, oh, there you go. You just unmuted. I'm not getting any audio from Jacqueline. Does anyone else hear anything from her?
Not on my end. I'm not hearing anything.
Jacqueline, we cannot hear you at this time. I apologize for that. Well, what I'll do is this. I had actually had some correspondence with Jacqueline several weeks ago. She has some concerns about issues involving code enforcement and trash and whatnot being left in her driveway and things like that from again, I don't know if it's necessarily neighbors or some of the custodians of her rental. What I'm going to do is I will forward the email that she had sent to register for public comment, which had some pictures attached to all of council, so you can all see that. And I have already talked to Chief Wilhelm about sending a code enforcement officer out to her property to have a conversation with her to see if there is anything that we are able to assist with her concerns, to listen to her concerns and to see what action that we can direct her to for the next step. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like her microphone is working at this time, so we cannot hear it from her own voice, but I will forward that email that was circulated with those pictures and just let everyone know that I've already followed up with Chief Wilhelm to have code enforcement follow up. Any other comments or questions from council regarding that request?
It looks like she's trying to connect to audio again.
I'll give her another moment, and it may not work tonight. I know we're having all kinds of connection issues. The next thing that should be is meet the police, which is item 4. Officer Costa was supposed to join us tonight, but I think he's having technical difficulties and is unable to join us as well. Well, I will, as I said, I'll forward that. I'll do what I had just expressed. I think we're going to move on in the meeting. If she's able to connect in the next few minutes, we can circle back to her, but it doesn't seem to be working tonight for that. Everyone okay with that? Us moving on? Okay. All right, we're going to move to item 5, which is our council actions. And the first heading is heading A under minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of the March 22nd, 2023 council agenda meeting and the April 3rd, 2023 council meeting.
Does anyone want to second those?
Second.
Thank you. Motion is on the table. Does anyone want to, any conversation around it? All right, let's get ready to vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, let's move under B, finance.
I move to approve the Borough of Swissville paid bills in the amount of $349,723,084.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Let's move on to item C, personnel.
I move to
I move.
to ratify the hiring of Ronald Morris as a part-time police officer with all wages and benefits as prescribed in the part-time police collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this motion? All right, let's vote. All in favor of ratifying the hiring of Ronald Warros, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Let's move on to the second personnel motion.
I move to ratify the hiring of Megan Barco as a part-time firefighter with all wages and benefits as prescribed in the firefighters collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this? Can I ask someone from the fire committee, does anyone want to make a couple comments? Because I know the interview happened since our last, correct? The interview happened since our last meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, I can make a couple comments. We interviewed Ms. Barco, and her resume was very, very extensive. She has a plethora of experience in the fire service and all the necessary trainings. Very good interviewer, very friendly, and I think she'll be excellent fit. And we really appreciate her wanting to be a part of the service here in Swissvale.
Yes, I would concur. She's extremely qualified, very impressive individual.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor of ratifying the hiring of Megan Barco, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Let's move on to D, the Borough Building.
I move to retain Dinsmore and Shaw, I pronounced that correctly, LLP as note counsel for the borrowing for the new municipal building construction at a fee not to exceed $15,000 and reimbursable expenses not to exceed $3,500.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this motion? All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Let's move on to purchasing.
I move to approve the purchase of a 2023 International HX620 trash truck with a 25-yard Heil Durapack 5,000 rear load body from Mid-Atlantic Waste at a cost of $272,840.
Second.
Any discussion on this? I know we talked about it last week. Okay, let's vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Let's get a motion to pay for it now.
I move to approve the financing proposal from Community Leasing Partners to finance the garbage truck at an interest rate of 5.02% over a 7-year term.
Second.
All right, motion's on the table. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Let's move on under F, EV charging. And the first motion deals with Duquesne Light, if someone would be willing to make that.
I move to approve an agreement with Duquesne Light Company to participate in the community and fleet charging program with all terms and conditions in the customer agreement between Swissvale Borough and Duquesne Light Company.
Second.
Motion is on the table. Is there any discussion around this motion?
I read it. It looked like a pretty standard contract. I'm sure Mr. McTiernan would agree with that. I don't know how many of y'all read over it, but I did. So it was pretty standard in terms of what they were asking for. I didn't catch anything in particular except probably what was standard in there had to do with what they control, what you control, and when you have to let them know things. So it looked pretty standard. Mr. McTiernan, did you think it looked pretty standard to you?
Yes, I believe it was pretty standard, but most importantly, I believe it's their standard contract, and I think that it's what they in general expect from municipal contracts. So yes, I didn't see anything too onerous in it. I did know one point is they ask that the installation begins 60 days after the effective date of the contract. That might be a little bit difficult to achieve, but they will give extensions if not, and will not be unreasonably denied. So if you need extra time to finish the arrangements with the other contractor, I think they'll be flexible.
And they had something else for 30 days. I did question that one a little bit, but once again, it looked like you could say that it's not going to be ready in 30 days. And I'm not sure where we're at in terms of whether it would be ready in 30 days. So that might be something that we might want to, make sure that we can extend it. But if you think that we can have an extension for those, then I guess that's fine.
Trying to find my, yes, it
Yeah, there
says
was one for 30 and one for 60 in terms of
Right.
when we had to implement things.
will not be unreasonably denied extensions, they said. So I think that gives us flexibility. Thank you.
And all our conversations at this point have been very flexible. Duquesne Light wants to see those chargers up, and they know that we want to have them up. So I do think it's been a beneficial or a symbiotic relationship to this point in time. So I'm sure that there would be flexibility in making those arrangements if necessary. Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. The next motion with Green Edge, should we, so I want to table this one. Do we need to make the motion in order to table it?
Just need to make a motion to table.
Okay. Well, I'll just make that motion if that's okay. I move that we table the motion for agreeing with the Green Edge contract till next month to enable both Mr. McTiernan as well as Green Edge to get together to come to a mutually beneficial agreement.
Second.
So I don't know if there's any additional discussion that you all want to have with that one.
I would say you should read over the contract. I was reading over it, and there were a couple of things that are a little problematic, which is I'm sure what Mr. McTiernan wants to go over. So before anybody votes on anything, they might want to know exactly what it is. We want to say that they change. We can, of course, depend on Mr. McTiernan because he's our eyes and ears for that, and I will depend on him. But we should probably look it over because there were several things that I thought were a little, put us in not necessarily the best position. So we might want to do that.
Yeah, and if there's, as you're reading the contract, if there is anything, I know Mr. McTiernan sent a brief to us last week with some thoughts. If there's anything in addition that you'd want him to work out with Green Edge, let him know. David Angelero is aware that we are, Mr. Bacci called him earlier today just to let him know that we're, we let him know last week that we had some changes that we wanted to see implemented. There was no feedback from them in the week meantime. So Mr. Angelero understands that we are tabling it, and it's not, it's been a good partnership so far. We want to work together. So this gives us a few extra weeks to be able to narrow down some of those concerns that Mr. McTiernan and others had.
I would say, Mr. McTiernan, also look at some of the things in terms of the privacy concerns, because there was one in the Duquesne Light contract in terms of how that information is to be used. And we should probably have something in there because we do not want our any of our residents or anybody else's information to go on there and then to be sold to a third party or to be used for telemarketing or God knows what else. So privacy is an important concern. I noticed that was one of them. And there were a couple of other things that I'm sure I'll look over again.
Well, I appreciate it. And as I said last week, I really welcome the comment of public officials. You know what the needs are, you know what the discussions have been. You can see from my memo that I've tried to catch as many issues as possible, but there are always things that folks see. And if you have questions, please let me know. Or
I think a big one was probably the fact that they could just change the price within 24 hours. I don't like that one, right? That one didn't fly well with me. So I think definitely, just because you give us 24-hour notice, all of a sudden you're jacking up the price or maybe lowering it. I don't know. But that one was probably a flag of concern.
yes, definitely. Thank you.
All right, are you ready to vote on the motion to table? All right, all in favor of tabling the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is tabled. All right, let's move on to our ordinance section under heading G.
I move to approve ordinance 23-02, approving the South Braddock Avenue transfer agreement between Swissville Borough and Allegheny County to accept infrastructure improvements installed along the Kenmore Bridge construction as borough facilities.
Second.
All right, the motion is on the table. Is there any discussion for the motion?
The only thing I would have, Mr. Batchy, you had said that you were working on or trying to get some sort of graphic that shows exactly what's laid out, and that just if we could still see that at some point.
Yes, I can get that too.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, let's vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Please say nay. Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Let's move on to our last motion for the evening, which is under the heading of Pollinator Garden.
I move to approve the scope of work for the Pollinator Garden project as negotiated between Humane Action Pittsburgh and Swissville Borough, with costs not to exceed $20,000 using local share account funds.
Second.
All right, the motion is on the table. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question in terms of the funds, how they will be distributed. Will we write a check directly to Hap Hive, or do we purchase the materials that was listed on that spreadsheet of expenses that was roughly like $19,000?
The borough would be responsible for all procurement, so we would have to find vendors to purchase that stuff from, and we would make payment directly to the vendors. No money would go to Hap.
So will we, out of the $20,000, is it going to those $19,000 of listed expenses, or is there any other expenses?
No, it's said on the agenda as a maximum of 20. President Ansel and myself discussed that yesterday, because if there's a fluctuation of a couple dollars here or there on some items, that's why we just said 20, because it was like 19,447, I think was the estimate. So we just said 20 on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, I would note that the list was circulated to council last week of the wish list of what the $19,447 is made up of. I do not believe that the public has seen any of this. And I want to make sure that all the council members have seen the list and had a chance to review it. The first item on the list, for example, is $5,000 for the purchase of large signage, which I assume is to promote this HAP's involvement in this project. I will be voting no on this tonight because I had proposed that we instead use the money. In fact, I'd suggested more than 20,000, 26,000, to replace the sidewalks around the site, rather than spend $5,000 on signage and purchase the plants and the shrubs and the clover seed and the topsoil that we were originally told when we offered this site to have, that we were told that they were going to purchase. When it comes time to replace sidewalks, I would urge council to not prioritize this site over all of the many sidewalks throughout our borough, some in very poor sections that are in worse shape than this. So when it comes time to address sidewalks, I think that there should be no special priority assigned to this lot, as we're already spending $20,000 on large signs and plants.
Any other comments?
Just for the sake of transparency, Chris, can we share that list of expenses on our website with the public so the public can see?
I don't see why not. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, we can
Okay.
share both that spreadsheet. I'll probably dress it up a little bit nicer than just kind of the yellow highlighted lines, because some of the stuff that we had taken out. And I think we can also share the image of what the plan would look like as well. That would be nice to share online. I think that's a good suggestion.
Just to kind of piggyback on that, Chris, I mean, since this is all part of this LSA grant funding, I think just in transparency, it would be good to show, here's the entire grant that we were given, and here's what that money is going to be used for. Kind of just including the whole story instead of just bringing attention to the pollinator part and pollinator garden piece. There's a lot of very important infrastructure that's being able to be done thanks to this grant money. And I think we should highlight that on the website too.
Yeah, we should also highlight the environmental justice areas that the grant was supposed to cover, for the areas that don't usually get any type of funding and have not gotten funding, as Councilperson Scales brought up last week. I thought we were supposed to last week that we were going to actually look over the whole list and discuss it as council instead of, just not, but that's okay. I see that's what I mean, I thought that's why we were looking over the proposal last week, but I guess not.
By the way, on the large signage, I do know that the borough has signed ordinances, and I trust that there will be some coordination between HAP and the borough if this is voted in favor tonight, to make sure that whatever signage is in compliance with our sign ordinances.
Absolutely. I think that's a very reasonable point.
And you should probably say that it was done in conjunction with the borough of Swissvale, since we seem to be putting the majority of the money into it.
I also agree. All right, let's vote. I know that we have some who've expressed that they're going to be yeses and no votes, so I think we'll do a roll call vote for the sake of just to make sure that we're not trying to count ayes and nays online all at once. So I'm just going to go in the same order that we do our roll call. So Miss Alfonso Wells?
No.
Mr. Miser?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
No, I would rather spend the money on sidewalks around the site.
Mr. Quinn?
I'm voting yes.
Miss Scales?
Yes.
Miss Stribling?
Yes.
And I am also a yes, and I didn't hear any abstentions, so the motion carries 5-2. Let's move on to our reports. COG report, Miss Scales.
I don't have a report to give. We had ALOM last month.
Well, we
And
did
so
have a
that
meeting
is,
on the
oh, go
third.
ahead and report, Angela. Go ahead, Angela, do your thing.
Listen, I didn't make the meeting, but I did. I mean, I didn't make the ALOM, but I did make the meeting last Thursday. Hold on, let me pull this up real quick.
Go ahead and report. I can at least report on ALOM, which we've already reported already. And then Angela's gonna report on what
The
took place
director's
after
report.
ALOM.
If it pulls up, hold on. 1 second. Okay, here we go. All right, so we did have a meeting last Thursday, April 27th, with the COG. They just went over the director's report, which was the upcoming meetings. Tomorrow there's a manager's meeting at 2 p.m. On May 16th, the police chief's meeting will be at 2:30 p.m. May 25th, Total Creek Valley COG board meeting will be at 6:30 on the 25th. Some of the things that we discussed was the code enforcement. The League of Government Academy Summer Intern Paul will be starting at the end of May. He's a student who's interested in learning about local government from regional perspective. He will be working on a code enforcement policy and procedure handbook and helping to gather data to inform the rental registry build out in code enforce. More details to come as we get closer to his start date. All of our beta towns have completed 2 days of training and some participated in our first working group. The feedback had already prompted changes and onboarding is moving along nicely. We continue to work on the code enforced business plan, and it's possible that the long-term sustainability may require some form of partnership or investment since the skill sets needed to scale and maintain the systems are expensive. We will continue to work with Joy Ruff from LGA along with John Trant from Strategic Solutions to establish a new program that will give non-college bound high school graduates an opportunity to be trained and gain real-world experience in code enforcement. Students may also have an opportunity to earn valuable certifications through the International Code Council prior to completion of the program. The VACTOR program. Our VACTOR program is up and running, and we're looking to schedule days. Any help you can provide your town staff is much appreciated. So if you want to pick those days, we want to ensure that every opportunity in town has used your days prior to the end of the VACTOR season in October. Last year, this would have been a significant issue had the weather not cooperated. We also had the County Executive Candidate Forum, which had approximately 100 people attend that forum, apparently the second largest of its kind as of that evening. We asked the candidates questions based on what our members submitted through the survey that we sent out, and as well as the pressing underfunded needs of some of our towns. Every candidate agreed that 7,500 stipends that the cause received from the county should be increased. Quality shared services that are still too expensive for some towns should be topped off by the county. A countywide system that houses and analyzes parcel data is necessary. And we achieved that based on and we had great media coverage and social media posts in regards to the candidates. And it was actually promoted through 6 news outlets that were there to be there for the forum. Police training, we're working to secure active shooter training dates for this fall. The Along Spring Conference, Total Creek Valley COG hosted a hospitality suite all 3 days and evenings of the conference. And let's see. Managers meeting discussed on April 6th. Mr. Bacci was there. Old business. Let's see. Yeah, so that's pretty much the newest meeting information that we went over. And our next meeting, they'll have another meeting coming up soon for new business. And that's pretty much it. Any questions on what I discussed? And that's the report.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Stribling.
You're
Ms. Gales,
welcome.
did you have anything else about ALOM you wanted to say?
No, thank you, Angela, for reporting, because I just realized the link went to a different email of mine. So that's
Really?
why I didn't know.
Okay.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Well, let's move on to item 2 under reports for Connect. Ms. Alfonso Wells.
Yes, I'm just going to start with, we have had, this is not Connect related, but since it's my turn to talk, I'll just put this in here. There was going to be a problem with our District 1 voters because they are not going to be able to vote in the Borough building. And so after contact with the Election Commission or whatever, and talking to the Mennonite Church, who very kindly have offered their spot over as a place for District 1 to be able to vote. If you recall, it is right down the block from the Borough building. And the commissioner over there met with the pastor, Pastor Dave, of the Mennonite Church, and it's a suitable place. And so it has been put together. And so, yes, that will be District 1's new voting spot. And they will be sending messaging out. They told me now, I guess, and I think we will probably have some little sign up that directs them to the Mennonite Church. So fortunately, they'll just be able to walk a block away. There won't be any other voting districts in there. So it's a win-win for all of us. Nobody has to be disenfranchised by going up to like a place where you don't have a car or a bus to get up to the intermediate school, which is not close to where these people live. So now they'll be able to vote safely and securely in the Mennonite Church. And so we thank the Mennonite Church and their leadership for coming forward to make sure that our citizens are not disenfranchised. They were very, very kind and more than willing. So I just want to put that out there so that everybody knows. Now, there were other places that, of course, were trying to, that said that their places could be used also, which was fantastic. This one just happened to be the closest and just it was just best overall because they didn't have to walk through another district in order to get there. So I think this is fantastic, and I want to give a shout out to the Mennonite Church. Thank you so much for being willing to make sure that our citizens aren't disenfranchised and that they're able to get to their election spot without any problem. So I'll just start with that, which is always good news when people can vote, right? So that's always positive. Which, by the way, is May 16th, Tuesday, May 16th, in case anybody was wondering. In addition, Connect is continuing on with the LEAD program. They've been giving some talks in several municipalities for some other municipalities that are interested in seeing how it's working. Soon our district will probably end up being a representative that talks about the program. We have started, it's been going on for a couple of weeks now, and we've been able to refer people to the program. But we're at the beginning. We're still at the beginning, so there's no stats or data yet from that, but we continue on and we continue to spread the word. So we are the pilot group. I think we're the second one to start, the second cohort to start. So this is just fantastic. We're going to continue on this path. It's always best to do something law enforcement assisted diversion. So it looks like it's working, and that our police department is fully on board with this. And from what I can hear, they've already referred people. So that's good, because we don't want people to continue in the same cycles that they've been stuck in. So this is fantastic. We also continue with the safety in the future of our firefighters. They're continuing that conversation. I'm on both of those committees. And so we just had a master report this past, I think last week, where we had a leadership meeting with Connect and a board meeting, I believe, and we talked about how our different committees were doing, and this one continues. Once again, we're trying to find solutions. Our police department our fire department seems to be one of the forefront departments that seems to be working on this issue. And so people are continuing to ask our fire chief, Wilhelm, about his experience and different types of things they could do. And they continue on looking for solutions to make sure that in our future, we can still have firefighters, which is a wonderful profession. Thirdly, our Get Solar project, which many citizens have been emailing me about. Yes, we did get our Get Solar project application in, and so that is something that's going to be coming up. Connect remains very connected to that, and they definitely sent out several reminders, and several people sent me reminders, and citizens sent me reminders. So there were a lot of reminders to me. I wasn't writing the grant, But I did talk to Mr. Batchy, and I'm so sorry, Mr. Batchy, that I contacted you more than once. But you, each time, you were on top of it and you got everything in on time. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure the world knows that it was put in, so that Get Solar project is in, and hopefully we can eventually get some money out of that for solar projects. And finally, one of the new and most exciting things that came up was, I believe, I don't know if it was last week or a month ago now, that I mentioned that composting project that was taking place in New York City, where they're composting scraps and directly from the homes and picking these things up. And so that is a project that is actually being brought here as a pilot project, or something similar to it. Where they're looking at how to do waste, I think composting waste project is what it's called, something like that. And they're looking for municipalities to get involved. It looks like if we have a suitable number of municipalities that get involved, that it'll be relatively cheap, and there are some grants, and there are also some organizations that would help us to do that, if that is something that we're interested in. But another project that that is up and seems like something that our particular municipality is interested in. But once again, I'm exploring that. So that was one of, I don't know, many meetings that I connected with on Connect. I can't even tell you what was going on with the technology one. I know we're still on the pilot project for that, but they haven't started yet. But we're still there. They're still looking for interns to do that. So that project hasn't ended. We're just waiting. So we are first in line as soon as they get people in there. And I know Josh has attended a couple of meetings when they've had them. I have been split between 3 or 4 different ones, but Josh has had my back with the technology one, and he's pretty good at that one. So we continue to look at the different needs that our municipalities have, and continue to look for ways in which we can, as a region, our different municipalities can come together and try to work together towards different solutions, so that it's cheaper for all of us, and that we're being sustainable in the environment, or at least that's one of our goals, not all of them, but at least one of them. So that is the Connect report.
Thank you so much, Ms. Alfonso Wells. Just a quick question. The technology one that you're referring to, is that the internship for electronically archiving some of our documents? Is that what you're, okay.
Yes,
I just want to make sure.
that, and I think some other digital help. Yes, they're just, I think the project is going forward. We are like the part of the pilot class, but once again, they have to get the interns for it. And I think that probably works around the school year, to be clear.
Yeah.
So you have to see if maybe there are grad students that are in for the summer and doing things for the summer. But if nothing else, usually they'll have somebody by September, October.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Josh.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out to them because they actually haven't had a working group meeting for communications and technology since February. So I may reach out to someone there and just kind of see what the status is on all that.
Now, is that the same group that is doing, Ms. Alfonso, well, you've talked before about mapping some of our vacant lots. Is that is that a similar grouping, or is that a different, I mean, that's a different project I knew, but is it the same committee?
Yeah, well, there's a similar thing going on, but the mapping vacant lots project, there's something that they're trying to do with Connect, but that hasn't fully expressed itself yet.
Got it.
But the project that we have been working on has been a collaboration really with some grassroots citizens, such as Seth Bush, whom I'm sure everybody's heard of, and 2 university professors, one at the University of Pittsburgh, and I think one at, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but I think it's like a university in Ohio, if not the University of Ohio, and their students. And so we did already go around and start mapping some places, and they're taking a look, and these students are fantastic. They're dropping GIS locators. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing all kinds of things that should make it exciting and happy. You might get a trail out of it. And I know that there are also some other vacant lots that people in a grassroots sense are probably going to try to pretty up let us say, in the next couple of months. So I might want to ask Mr. Batchy, is that legal? Or at least, you know, give a heads up to our our police department, so that they know that the, I don't know, rather grungy looking folks that are surrounding a property are actually digging, digging holes and putting in plants, and that they don't get arrested or something. So we will probably be talking to Mr. Batchy about that. That's something separate, but I know Connect is also trying to do a project with that. But the one that we have going on in our particular neighborhood is actually just very grassroots, very hands-on, and I'm just amazed at how it was able to come together with a couple of words, a couple of professors, a couple of very hardworking students. So this to me is really fantastic, and we should see the results soon as they finish mapping.
Great. Thank you so much for that clarification.
And thank you so much for the updates on the voting location. I now got to let some voters know that that's where their actual location is, because there are a good handful of folks that didn't know where they're supposed to go vote at.
All right, let's move on to the building report. Mr. Price.
Yes, about 2 weeks ago, the building committee met with CORE again. The lead architect who designed the building is no longer with CORE and has been replaced by another architect who seems to be excellent. But some things kind of got lost in the transition that we noticed. For example, we're planning on having some EV stations at the site, and we want to make sure that underground the conduit or tubing that you put wires through is in place before the parking lot is paved, so that doesn't have to be torn up later when we get the EV equipment. And allowing for that EV equipment dictates certain changes in the electrical setup within the borough building. So now that the new architect is aware of that, he's adjusting his plans accordingly. And I had expressed concerns to the new architect that I was afraid that a car could come off of South Braddock Avenue and cross the plaza, and it would be a natural ramp right into council chambers. And I've asked that the architect try to design something tasteful that will stop a car that happens to come off of South Braddock Avenue. The final design of the new building should be concluded within the next 30 to 60 days, and bidding for the new construction of the building shall occur within the next 90 days. Greg Batchy tells me that there was a pre-bid meeting today for demolition contractors who wish to bid on the demolition, and 8 potential bidders attended the meeting. The bid opening for the demolition and asbestos abatement will be held on June 5th, 2023. So that's basically my report.
I will say one thing that that Mr. Price did not emphasize, but it is something we should emphasize, is that from the beginning, although he brought it up at this particular meeting, from the beginning, we have said that we needed to have these underground electrical conduits so that we could be future forward. That was always our plan. So I want you to understand how hard Mr. Price keeps on top of that, because they acted like it didn't exist, and they were like, "Oh, really? This is the first time hearing of it." This was not the first time, and Mr. Price brought it up. But we have been talking about this for over a year, and that was one of the first things we said, because we've always said we wanted the building to be future forward and not something that we would then have to modify and put more money into when we know we're going EV at some point. So that was a good catch, Bill. So hopefully you'll keep up with that sharpness.
Yeah, I echo that. I mean, it was evident we don't have an EV fleet now, but that is always something we've been working towards. So You need to plan for where you want to go, not where you are right now. For President's report, I just was going to loop back onto the election. Ms. Alfonso Wells, thank you for that information. I actually had not heard that the Mennonite Church had worked out a deal that had solidified. I was just going to share that I had asked Mr. Batchy to have us post on social media all the voting districts over the next week, just because there is some, moving pieces. Well, that piece being moving, just to remind everyone where their voting locations are, and to make sure that we do have appropriate signage at the old Borough building, notifying folks of where to go for that very reason. And I'm glad. I think the Mennonite Church is a great fit because it's just right there, a block away. And it's people might pass it on the way to the Borough building. Mr. Miser.
Yeah, I don't know if this is appropriate. I thought this was the most appropriate place to ask the question, as you're the president of council, but if there needs to be discussion later, I don't know where it would fit during this meeting, but because we had previously stated this was the plan, is the plan to move back to in-person meetings for next month for our June meetings?
So we don't know yet. I mean,
Okay.
I think that what we need to do is we need to add it as an agenda item at the end of a month and then vote on it the meeting after. And then we were kind of waiting and seeing, I think, waiting for that mid-May date that you had circulated a couple of months ago. You had said that, again, I hadn't heard it, but word on the street was, the worst part of the pandemic being over by whatever the May date was. I think we were waiting to see if that held. And then if so, begin conversations about that. That seems fair.
Does that require a vote? Since, meetings should technically be in person outside of the emergency declaration. I didn't know if that would require a vote.
Well, the thing is our emergency declaration is not based upon the pandemic at this point in time.
Right.
Our emergency declaration is that we don't have council chambers to meet in anymore.
Okay.
And so I think if we, there might be space at the school. That was the question mark. I mean, some of the space that we had thought about might not have adequate, might not be big enough. Like there are spaces like the auditorium that could be utilized at the school, but that's kind of outside of what our, I don't know the exact terms of our lease agreement, but that's not, that's a lot larger point of space than the school district thought we were using to begin with. So we have to navigate some of those things. And once we make the decision to go back to in person, if and when that decision is made, it's unilateral. We can't just say after a month, this doesn't really work and we're going to go back. Because at that point in time, I feel like that is not in good faith of our emergency declaration of not having a space. So I think all of that taking into consideration was going to be something that I think it would be wise for us to discuss and to actually vote on as the directive of council.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just with the technical issues tonight with getting public comment.
I know
some of the discussions at ALOM, it's been something I meant to bring up last week and didn't have to. So thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. This is something we did talk about, maybe May, a return to in-person, but we wanted to wait until we passed that mid-May date and then kind of go from there and have some conversations. Because I know we're not all in alignment right now. And so to be able to have some of those frank conversations and decide what to do going forward. So thanks for bringing that up. All right, let's go to the mayor's reports. Mayor Swartzwalder.
Okay, can you hear me? I'm having some audio problems. So I just want to throw out a few reminders to everyone that this Saturday is the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy flower planting at the Parkway. SEDCO is a sponsor again this year, and our planting starts at 9 a.m. And just a reminder to everyone, we have to remove the political signs for planting day. We'll just put them to the side and do with them what you want after planting day. So sorry about that, but that's something that the Conservancy puts in their contract with us. Well, Ann, do you have a question?
Thank you. Yes, that's what I was going to ask, if you were going to move the signs. So to make sure I come and get my stuff.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. We'll take them down if we can. I know yours is pretty big, so if we can't take it down, then it'll just have to stay up till next week. So, but we are required to take them down. So I just want to let everyone know they'll be over on the side. I won't do anything with them. So So if anybody wants to volunteer, meet us down at the Parkway Flower Site at 9 a.m. And we are also planning our quasi-centennial celebration. If anyone would like to help us plan or volunteer or just participate in any way, contact myself or Sarah Ansel at the Borough, and we will fit your needs. July 29th is the celebration day, but we are planning a month-long celebration, different events happening. So let us know if you'd like to help. So it's a farmer's market. Reminder, June 3rd is our opening day. 9 to 2 are our hours, and we have moved to Dixon parking lot. So hope everybody comes and supports our 10th year, I believe. So let's talk about the church Braddock Parklet. Chris, do you have anything that you want to just to kind of segue into it regarding the Eagle Scout project and the talks we've had regarding that?
I mean, so I ran in a couple weeks ago to the Eagle Scout. I had actually not met him prior to that, but I was at a different event, and I said, hey, so glad that, we're excited for your plan. And he was kind of like, I think I actually bit off more than I can chew. I mean, it was a big project. And he's like, I think we need to do something a little bit smaller. So then there was like that total letdown, because, once you have this like beautiful brick, using our own resources, brick and pavers, like what can compete with that? So I had communicated that both to Greg and to Deneen, and that's kind of where I left things off.
Yeah, so I'm very disappointed that the plans have kind of stalled, but I would like for us to possibly move forward with that plan, and with council's blessing and approval and the help of Jordan and Greg, and I kind of spoke to both of them last week along with Chris. I think we can make it happen, and I know Sedco and Rotary want to pitch in wherever they can. If it's volunteering to pull the bricks or the cobblestone out of the heaps, the piles, or if it's helping to lay the cobblestones when they are in place. So if we could possibly move forward with this plan and see if we can make it happen. And with council's approval, I think we could just at least start talking about it and give us some direction.
Would it be
questions or comments?
Yeah, Mayor Swartzweiler, would it, and this probably wouldn't come from you, maybe Mr. Batchy. I mean, I think that's a great idea, still making it a community effort, even if there would be a work day or something where people could come out and help lay down the something like that. We can try to make it everyone come together and hang out type thing. But, with the Eagle Scout not doing the work, I would just like to know, so we could get it on the agenda and have approval to move forward on it, what costs there would be associated in order to get that completed. So Mr. Batchy, I don't know if that's something you can put together before next month's agenda meeting, just to know what we would need to do to move that forward.
Yeah, we'd have to come up with a scope of work, to do that. And maybe if it's council's wishes, we could get with Sedco in the next 2 weeks or so and try to find out what their vision is, along with what the vision was from the Boy Scout, and we could put something together for the end of the month.
All right. Thank you. And if there's no other questions, that's my report.
I was just going to say, and just because you mentioned, and I was going to try to say the word that means 125 years, and I would completely say the wrong thing. Quintessence, for the 125th anniversary of Swissvale, we did hear during public comments some questions regarding signage and such. And Mr. Batchy, I don't know if you want to speak to it during your manager's report. I don't know if anything had been planned, but if not, I'd also like to see that put on the agenda for next month's meeting, because that is rapidly approaching. And I do think it's something we should be drawing attention to. So.
Could you clarify what you want on the agenda?
Well, just some discussion regarding, Ms. Miller had talked during her public comment about possibly, having some sort of sign made, for the 125th anniversary, whether, I don't know, she had mentioned kind of at the parklet, but I didn't know if we could maybe put something at the Welcome to Swissvale signs, like a banner or something under it for 125 years, just some a space for us to have discussion around that, because I know she mentioned that SEDCO would possibly do some movement on it, but they wanted to at least see if council was going to be taking any action on signage for the 125th.
Yeah, I can add that to the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mayor Schultz, were you done with your report? Okay. Let's move on to the manager's report then. Mr. Batchy.
Thanks, sir. So we kind of answered a little bit of Mrs. Miller's questions about what's going on with the Church Street Parklet, and we'll try to get with SEDCO and see. And I don't know if Rotary wants to be involved in that or not too, because the Rotary already did sponsor, the tree plantings in the they sponsored and paid for the tree plantings in the park, as well as some benches, trash cans, and dog waste stations that we have in storage right now. So I'll reach out to both groups and we'll see what we come back with as a scope of work and get some costs on it. The other thing about flags for the poles on Washington Street, yeah, Miss Miller and I did have a conversation about that, but I haven't had an opportunity to look into that. So we'll put that on the list of things to do. And a couple things, just a reminder, we do have our e-waste and household hazardous waste collection on May 20th, Saturday, May 20th at 9 a.m. at Memorial Park. So if anybody has anything that they want to dispose of, electronics, computers, oils, antifreezes, basically any household waste that you can't dispose of in the trash, any bulk waste, tires, anything else like that, please feel free to bring it to Memorial Park. It is free for Swissvale residents, and you must provide proof that you're a Swissvale resident or property owner. So you need to provide proof that of that status. And that will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we will have about 10 dumpsters down there, as well as our company that we use on Noble Environmental to do this. Mr. Ziskow and myself met with Allegheny County last week to discuss the grant funds and the administration of the grant funds on the 2 grants for the walking trail. That's one of their required steps in the process. So we did check that box off. It was a fairly short meeting because Mr. Ziskow's administered a lot of these projects through the county. So they were very comfortable with he and I doing this. But I still do not have the contracts. So we still can't move forward until the signed contract is given back to us from the county. So we will get when we get those back, Mr. Ziskow has a design done, and we need to talk with others. I know there's a lot of interest from the community on how this is being done. So he and I will get with all the different stakeholders involved here in the near future. I mean, we can do that before we get the contract. That's just finding time for us to do it. And the last thing is, if you saw on the news and on Facebook, Dick Grote, who's a former Pittsburgh Pirate and former Swissvalian, passed away last weekend. His funeral viewing is on Thursday, which is tomorrow from 4 to 8 p.m. and 12 to 7 on Friday. Would ask all residents, if you don't need to be in the area of Needs Funeral Home during that time, please avoid that area on Washington Street. We will have some police over there helping direct traffic, as well as the fire department doing some traffic details at both Washington Street and the Edgewood Town Center, where they got permission to use it for overflow parking. They are running a shuttle from Edgewood Town Center over to the funeral home. They expect several thousand people to be in attendance at the viewings the next 2 days. So if you don't need to be on Washington Street, please stay off Washington Street the next 2 days, because it will be a traffic jam. And like I said, we will have a couple officers over there assisting with the traffic. So that's all I have for tonight.
What time did you say it was again?
4 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow, and 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday.
Well, my condolences to the family. Did we send in a condolences card or anything?
We have not, no.
I always ask if we do that. I would love to, especially if it's like a former Swissvillian or Swissville resident and they pass away. I always want to, issue something, a card, a flower, something, just to show that our local representatives care.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's something we can consider putting in the budget.
Yeah, we can do something like that.
Greg, a question I have, and it wasn't in your report, so you can let me know if this is something we just need to discuss afterwards. But it's in regards to the paving inquiry that we received for that property that's located on South Braddock Avenue.
Is that in front of the class building?
Class building, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that Jordan and there's another issue here that road is also split. It's half Edgewood, half Swissville. So Jordan and I'm going to get a hold of Rob Zahorchak from Edgewood, and we'll go over there and take a look at it, see if there's something we can do. Basically what we may be able to do is to pave like maybe a 20-foot center of that road. Like if they could delineate an area for the bus drop off on both sides, and then we could pave an area from side to side, maybe like where one of the handicap ramps are, to get the people from the buses as they drop off. Or, I was up there the other day looking at what goes on there, and basically, at the end of the day, there's a number of buses and vans there picking the students up. And it's almost like, at the high school, you have to walk to your bus, and your bus may be down at the bottom today and up at the top, But in this case, people are pushing them in wheelchairs and such. So I do see the issue there that they're talking about. But yeah, we'll go ahead and take a look at that and see if that's something we can fund internally, basically split with Edgewood, or if it's something we need to look at other funding. I do have an idea for a project for the fall with the LSA. The LSA grants come up every year. And I was thinking about an idea for a project like at the Wilkins School to replace the sidewalks there, because we do own that. And, if that's something that the council is interested in doing, we may be able to do this project, tie it all in, since it's all right there in the same corridor, to do something.
Okay. Thank you so much, Greg. Are we able to send an update then, at the very least, just to say, hey, we haven't forgotten about this inquiry?
Yep.
We're working on it.
Yeah, and when the three of us get out there, I want to try and meet with somebody from class also to see what what their thoughts are too. And yeah, we'll get an update out to the people who inquired. And I do have one. I'm sorry. Do you have anything else on that, Ms. Scales? I do have one more thing, and I always forget this right at the end. We are still looking for summer help for anyone ages basically 14 and over, high school student, college student, even if just an adult who's unemployed, or just looking, or someone, adults, retirees, anybody. $12 an hour, up to 40 hours a week. You don't have to be available for 40 hours a week. You can work 2 or 3 days, 4 days if you want, but there is 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, so basically anyone who's interested in cutting grass, helping paint lines, weed whacking, just, general stuff that the Public Works Department does. Please give us a call, 412-271-7101, or email us. My email is gbachy@swissvilleborough.com. We can get you working then, in the next couple of days if you want. So, and that would be from now through September 15th, you could work. So anyone interested, please reach out. And if anybody knows anybody, please give them a call and tell them to call us.
Great, thanks, Mr. Bacci. Miss Alfonso Wells.
Yeah, is the Wilkins School area, is that an environmental justice area?
No. The LSA grants are not environmental justice area qualifying. You don't have to be. The
Okay.
the
Because
area
I
we
know
pro-
there was some streets that we've definitely discussed that you know, down here that look like they have super holes in them. It's like really, really bad. And I don't think anything's been done with them yet. And I would like to try to attend some of these shabby areas first, that seem to be, you know, kind of falling apart. I can't even drive that. What is that, Wayne Street? Oh my gosh, they're like dips and holes and all over the place. And I just would like to get some of that fixed if that's
we're
possible.
yeah we're working. We're trying to get to them with South Braddock Avenue, like we discussed last week. At some point in the next week or so, we're going to try to bring in a crew at about 4:30 a.m. to do that work, because it's just about impossible to do safely, you know, after 7 a.m. So we're going to bring a crew in early to try to do that paving work and you know, do that restoration work. Well, you know, the guys are out every day doing different things. We're, you know, trying to work through the borough and do that. But to answer your question on the environmental justice area, the LSA grants are not contingent upon being in an environmental justice area. It just so happens that the project we proposed this year was in an environmental justice area.
Ms. Scales.
My only, I'm glad you brought up, I apologize. That is Liam wants to give his 2 cents. I'm glad you brought up the summer program, Greg. If you or Sarah can put in the calendar this summer that there be an opportunity for council members to come in and welcome the youth that come to work for the borough. And then before it comes to an end, before they start heading out back to school, if there could be an opportunity to, you know, just thank them. Because I remember that's what I wanted to do, but by the time I thought about it, the kids were already off to back to school.
Right. Yep. Yeah, we can do that. We'll kind of have like a meet and greet with the council members and the summer help.
Yes.
Okay, we can do that.
Great suggestion. All right, let's move on to the engineer's report. Mr. Ziskow.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to my written report, which I always submit, I do have one update for council. We did receive approval from Alcosan to proceed with the actual application for GROW under the Cycle 8 program. That project, as I mentioned to council a few months ago, we're proposing a separation project down below Memorial Park in the point of connection to Alcosan known as M48. It'll answer a lot of concerns and a lot of questions. Number one, it's a direct separation project. So the existing groundwater and surface runoff that's currently going into the combined sewer system will actually be separated out and will be connected to the overflow pipe beyond the Alcosan system. I'm very encouraged that we'll receive funding and we could receive up to the full 85% that they grant for the project because it is a direct separation project and they really like that. So we'll be doing that application during the month of June. It's due by the end of the month and they will act on it around September. It will probably be, if we are approved, it'll probably be into the 2024 construction season. But that will also provide our necessary response as far as the current consent order is concerned for that particular sewer shed. So that's a good point as well.
Great, thank you, Mr. Ziskow. Ms. Alfonso Wells.
Yes, Mr. Ziskow, I am currently on one of the advisory boards for the Water Authority, which is actually quite interesting. So I know they do want to fund those types of projects. They're also interested in some types of beautification projects that you can do to make it look, I don't know, nice and sustainable above ground. They did a whole presentation I had to sit through that showed all these wonderful things that were on top of, I don't know, sewer runoffs. I don't know what to call it, but they were very interesting. And so, yes, I would encourage us to do that because they are more than interested in making sure that particularly municipalities like ours are able to take advantage of that money. So they have been telling me to make sure I told our engineer, which is you, and our borough manager, that they are encouraging people to please apply for this money. Because they're not throwing it away, to be clear, right? But if you have a good project, they will fund it. Now,
Why do you think-
I do not vote on that at all. I do not vote on what projects they choose. I am not a part of that. I'm just looking at them, getting the word out to people that there are projects that should be done if you can get that information in.
I have been extremely successful with the Alcosan Grow program, as Tim Prevost says at many of the meetings. So I hope that
They
my
know
streak
you.
continues.
All right, let's move on to Mr. Miser.
Good evening, Mr. Ziskow. Regarding that point of connection 48 for Alcosan, you said that's located below Lesquette's. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that in the scope of the plans that have been put out for the walking trail? Is that in that same area, or is it down lower? Will that affect those plans, the construction on that at all?
No, it will not affect the plans because we're actually, our walking trail is up above that. It's at the same level. It starts at the same level as what the ball fields are. This is all the way down at the railroad. And even if it were to be in the same area, it would not involve it because we're actually doing a tunneling under the railroad. So there won't be any major excavation.
Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Ziskow? All right, thank you, Mr. Ziskow. Let's move on to the Water Authority report. Ms. Crombie Collins.
Hello, this is the overview of the Wilkinsburg Penn Joint Water Authority Board meeting from April 25th. As we discussed at the April 3rd council meeting, the auto pay and paperless billing system changes went into effect April 1st. There have been issues with customers enrolled in these programs not receiving email notifications or paper bills. The issues are being worked on. For those impacted customers, no shutoffs will occur and the late charges will be waived. A letter is being mailed to all authority customers about these changes. I do want to thank council and the members that gave feedback at the last meeting because those issues were raised and were worked on. But again, some of these things take time to get through, and the authority is working on them as fast as possible. The Penvest lead line replacement program phase 1 progress continues. There is a focus to finish this phase of Swissvale lines by the end of May. There were 622 service line replacements completed, 169 in Swissvale. I don't have it in my report, but I will add that the contractors, the subcontractors were getting paving started. So if there are customers who had service lines replaced and don't have final restoration, that should be happening in the very near future. And of course, then temperatures dip this week, so you can't do restoration with the overnight temperatures we have, but they are planned to start shortly. Penvest proposed grant phase 2 work continues and signed agreements are coming in steadily. Swissvale customers returned 78 agreements from the 200 letters that were sent. Cary Furnace phase 3, the contractor started work on April 17th. They are still having issues with the railroad, but the work is expected to be completed in the next 30 days. For Cary Furnace phase 4, which is the RIDC contractor, they expect to finish the last 100 LF of water line by April 21st. Testing of the water lines is to be completed prior to the end of the month. RIDC has indicated that their plan is to continue the water line to loop it to the 10-inch line for the additional 2 lots that they own adjacent to the current plants. The
landscape and grass cutting services contract was approved. And I'd like to add that I did suggest to the Water Authority that we look into rain gardens where applicable. And this was based on one of the presentations that I attended at the ALOM conference. There's lots to learn there, and I appreciate that I could attend and pick up a lot of great information from the conference. Management is looking at a water sewer line replacement insurance offering. It's at the very first stages. I don't have any other information on that. Other business was conducted. The agenda, engineers report, the report of management, and the previous meeting minutes will be available online. There were 22 mainline breaks system-wide since the last board meeting. 4 were in Swissvale. And there were 171 distribution service or repairs, 38 of which were in Swissvale. And again, if you have or see any water issues, please contact the authority's customer service at 412-243-6200. And that's my report. Any questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Miser.
Tracy, I know you probably knew my hand was going to go up, but I will say I was able to speak with Tracy this week because the concern regarding the auto pay billing system issue has been brought up to me numerous times, and I'm one of the people affected, so I'm kind of trying to figure this thing out as I go as well. I did send an email to the executive director as well as the chair of the board of the authority. I did not receive any response. However, I am glad to hear that a letter is going to be sent out. It does appear that if you go to the website now and click on the read more link, you do get the May 1st letter, a copy of that PDF. I will just say I wish it was a little bit more prominent, that we know this issue is happening. Click here for more information, but it is there. I will say, and Tracy, I don't know, because this is something that I found out yesterday after I spoke to you. I don't know if this is something that can go back to the emails that are being sent to customers that reach out to customer service regarding this issue are not conveying correctly the situation. I have a screenshot of one of them, and it basically puts the blame on the customer, saying not only did we email customers more than once, but we also placed this notice, et cetera, et cetera. It's imperative that we have the correct contact information to get these notifications. And that's not correct. You know, they have my correct email address. I was getting bills up until the shut off. So I think now that this official language has come out regarding the issues, you know, I would hope that the customer service staff would be using that as their response. So again, you know, I know this isn't your thing directly. You're just kind of having to hear the complaints, but it has been a very bad transition. I'll just say that.
And I will say, this was not the plan. The plan was for the former contractor to continue until the new contractor is ready, and the former contractor wanted to go back into contract, and with us not being able to do it, they stopped service. It wasn't the Water Authority wanting this to happen. And I think that I have not seen the email notice or the letter. I will look at that after the meeting. There are issues at the authority with people not updating information, and Mr. Miser, we talked about it, but clearly it's not everyone. And I did get some updates from the director. This is approximately 7,300 customers that could be impacted, and that's out of 39,000. So it is less than 20% of customers that this impacted, but it's still a shock if you have been impacted. What may have happened to you is that your auto pay, you didn't get a notice, or you didn't read the notice that might have been received, and your April payment wasn't made, and so now you're getting your May bills and it shows that you're delinquent. And the system is automated once an account goes delinquent to issue the first in a series of 3 letters about shut-off concerns. The first letter is a concern for shut-off, that if there is not a payment, that shut-off will happen. And unfortunately, part of this 7,300 approximately customers might have been getting those letters too. There have been no increase in customer service calls, which is pretty surprising because we've heard a lot from Swissvale constituents or customers. So the authority is doing everything they can. There was a manual. They had thought that paper billing had been handled. Then we found there was another place within the system that needed manually adjusted for everybody to get paper bills. As of April 28th, that was all taken care of. So all customers should receive a paper bill in May. If you are not, and we're still at the postcards, as a sidebar, one of the next phases of the new implementation of new systems is we are going to go to full letter invoices in envelopes. I believe we have to incorporate that into next year's budget. So everybody should get a paper bill next month. I've been assured that everything's been handled that way. If you've received a late notice or a shut-off notice and it's because your auto pay or your e-billing you didn't receive, please contact the water authority so we can get that all waived and your account, your account is back online. And that the third issue that happens is, what is your balance? That information is not available online either. Again, the reason why we would have needed to get everybody paper bills. And unfortunately, at this time, the only way to get your balance is to contact customer service.
Last thing, Tracy, regarding the paper bills, just so I can respond to the people from Swissvale that have contacted me. You said that the issue with that was discovered around April 28th, and now it should be fixed moving forward.
It was a manual. It was an issue that was discovered the last week in April, and it needed manual attention for all of the accounts, and that process finished on April 28th.
So for accounts that would have had a bill issued on like April 25th, again, my situation, because I still haven't received a paper bill for my bill due in 2 weeks. Will it start with the next billing, or should I still expect a paper bill for my April charges?
The way I understand the billing system is once that date is hit, the bill is issued. I did question authority management if they could be somehow reissued, or bills that were due that month or that week due to be printed that week could, and that was going to be investigated. A concern is then some people might get double bills and then it looks like it's a whole new problem, but the second bill would be a duplicate to try and catch people that might not have gotten the printed bill. So that's still being looked at.
Yeah, I mean, I can say, again, I'm one point of data, but my due date is 14 days from today, and I have not received a paper bill. So
I would say then you're in the data set that it was, the issue was not fixed before your printed bill date.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Cromie Collins. All right, let's move on to the solicitor's report. Mr. McTiernan.
Yes, Mr. President, I just want to note briefly for the board in terms of the borrowing that'll take place. The first step will be the advertising of a notice and then the adoption of a debt ordinance. And the closing usually takes place about 30 days afterwards because there are filings with the DCED that have to be done. So that's basically the process. I have a comment, maybe it's more of a question for Mr. Batchey. Do we need a motion to publish the notice, or do you do that, Mr. Batchey, usually as a matter of course, and then approve it afterwards with the bills?
We just do it as a matter of course when we
Okay.
advertise any ordinances or anything. The staff advertises them and then the council votes on them the following month.
That's great. So we will need a notice, and Mr. Batch and I have already talked about it to get it adopted in time for the regular meeting in June or a special meeting earlier, if that's council's choice. So that's essentially the process, and I just wanted to touch on that with council.
Yeah, and there's really at this point, there's really not a need to have a special meeting because the bid opening for the demolition is on June 5th. So we wouldn't be able to award that contract until July. So if we award it the June 7th meeting, that's perfectly fine.
That's great. That'll give us plenty of time to do the paper requirements in advance and the notice. And of course, we'll keep council and the mayor posted. That's all I have this evening.
Great. Thank you, Mr. McTiernan. Before we adjourn, does anyone have any announcements they'd like to share before we depart?
Yes, really quick. I just wanted to acknowledge that next week, May 8th through May 12th, is Teacher Appreciation Week. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all of the educators in the Woodland Hills School District and all over Allegheny County just for the work that you do. I'm very appreciative. And us in Swissvale, we are very appreciative for the work that you do for our children.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Ms. Alfonso Wells.
Yes, I would just like to say that our Juneteenth celebration will be June 17th. It is coming up. It seems like it seems a little far away because we're at the beginning of May, but no, before you know it, we'll be having our Juneteenth on the 17th, that's Saturday the 17th. There's also our Pride celebration, which I believe is the
25th.
5th, right? So it's
Yep.
the 25th, and so yeah, that following Saturday. So you get a lot of bang for your buck here on the weekends in Swissvale. I am looking for volunteers who want to work with the Juneteenth committee to help put this all together. I have a crew of people that's assembling now, so we can have our fun little auction. Our silent auction that's going to be going on and different types of things. So if you're interested, just let me know. You can contact the borough or you can contact me. And most of you have already started to contact me anyway. So if you're interested in working for any of these wonderful projects, just let us know so we can get you to work.
Thank you. And we're looking for sponsors and vendors. So we've started to slowly receive some vendors. If you are interested in taking part in Juneteenth, please go onto our website. Thanks to Sarah, the forms to sign up and register as a vendor or as a sponsor are all now on the website. I know last year it came to a point that we were getting applications, requests literally within 24 hours of the actual celebration. And unfortunately, we were packed to capacity. So if you're interested in taking place, and we would love to have you take place with celebrate with us, please go onto our website. Please sign up as a sponsor, or please sign up as a vendor as well.
Great, thank you for all those announcements. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to ask if we could take a moment of silence for Dick Rote in memory of his passing. Thank you for that. I would be open to receiving a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, in
Fred
stereo.
Fred beat me, I think.
Second, all in favor of adjourning at 8:37 p.m. Please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed to that? Good evening, everyone. See you later.
Good night, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.